Hi and welcome to this video. We will continue learning on modifying the data and tackling the challenges while modifying the data in this video. The next challenge is we want to update the values of a column. Before we do that, let's just see what are the value counts for item fed content. Now you already know what value counts as a function does. It basically tells you the frequency of each category in a categorical column. Now, if you see the categories that are present in this column, you will realize that a lot of categories are repeated. For example, low-fat and LF and low-fat in capital letters are the same category, while regular and reg are the same categories. So this is another challenge that happens a lot when you're working with real-world data, which is basically sometimes while collecting the data or while processing the data, people do not follow the guidelines. So what happens is you have the same information but written in different ways. In order to fix this, we will use a function known as map function. Now, map function is something that we have seen in detail in Python basics. Now, we will create a mapping. So I'll create a mapping in such a way that capital low-fat is also LF is LF, and low-fat in lowercase letters is also LF. Similarly, for regular, full word regular is capital R, and small reg is also capital R. So this mapping is the actual mapping of the underlying data. Even though we have 5 different categories, but essentially there are 2 categories written in different ways. Using the map function that we have learned initially in Python basics, and this mapping that just we created here, the dictionary, we can update this entire column's value so that we only have 2 categories, LF and R. Basically, item fed content of the column, map it using this mapping, and this is what piece of code says. When you run this piece of code, you'll notice that the output has 2 categories, LF and R. So basically, when you save this value here, inside the data.item fed content column, you'll realize that the column has been fixed. Now, if you do the value counts on the same column, you will notice that you are getting the same proper categories for LF and R. So this was challenge number 2. The next challenge is how you can create a new column by modifying an existing column. Suppose you have a column item MRP in a current data set, and item MRP is actually the price of the item in a foreign currency other than US dollars. And here is the item MRP column. Suppose you want to create a new column item MRP in US dollars, which is basically the price of the item in US dollars. Let's say in order to convert this price from a foreign currency to the US dollars, you have to divide all rows in this column by 74. Now, this is something that you can do using the apply function in Python. So before we come to the main solution of this challenge, let me tell you a bit about apply function. So here I say item MRP and I'll say apply lambda x is equal to x. So the apply function essentially lets you iterate over all the values of a column. And here, when you run this, you will see that it just gets the values in each item MRP and writes it back. Suppose I say here, do x into 10. Then all values of this column will be multiplied by 10. Suppose we say x plus 10. And then you will see that all values have been added by 10. Suppose you say x divided by 100. Then all values will be divided by 100 and so on. So using the apply function on a column and using the lambda function inside, we can essentially do any number of manipulations on a column itself. And the good thing about apply is it returns you an entire series which you can equate to a new column of your data frame. And this is how you can create a new column in its entirety. So here, if you want to convert the item MRP to US dollars, you will divide each values by 74. So when you run this code, you will see that these are the values in dollars. Now, because this function returns your entire series of values, you can just equate this series of values as a new column to your data frame. So till now, if you just check your data frame by data.head, you will notice that you don't have any column known as item MRP in US dollars. So there's no column like that. Once you run this piece of code here, so you are equating this into a new column in your data set. Let's run this piece of code. and run data.head, you will see a new column called item MRP in USD. So this is how you can add a new column to your data frame and update the values of a previous column and make some changes to it, divide, multiply, and add to it. And whatever operations you perform on this value inside the apply function, you can just equate as a new column of the data frame itself. So these are the two challenges that are very important on modifying the data in Pandas. In the following video, we will continue on modifying data in Pandas. Thank you for watching this video.